Welcome back to Minnesota, the 38th edition of the Roy Griak Invitational, technically in Falcon Heights, Minnesota. All right, Carrie Tollefson, give me the geography lesson. I know this is east of downtown Minneapolis. Well, I can't hear Carrie Tollefson. Could you tell me, Ben, where Falcon Heights is?
It's about 10 minutes. You're back.
I know. I just wanted you to get in, Ben. Go ahead. You tell it.
I was reminiscing and thinking about all the early mornings I spent on this golf course. We used to get up as a team and show up at 5 a.m. and go do some running with the boys. It used to be dreaded. I used to dread it, sitting in the van, driving up there to run around this, tough course in the morning. And now I look back on it fondly. Having spent so many years solo, I think, man, it wasn't so bad waking up and running with a few guys. I just get to do it by myself.
Carrie, would you like to say anything?
I would. I was saying that it was about 4 to 5 miles probably from downtown Minneapolis. So yes, we are east of Minneapolis, but Falcon Heights is a suburb of Minneapolis, and as you all know, the Twin Cities, St. Paul, Minneapolis, we're just divided by the Mississippi River, and it's actually awesome to train here. Everyone's like, why would you move home to Minnesota when you could train anywhere in the world? It's pretty dang nice here in the Twin Cities, so highly recommend if you want to come out and watch it.
And a very nice day for racing, even though it's going to get warmer and warmer as the day unfolds. We look ahead to this Division I Gold race, some notable winners. I had to throw the Villanova alum on the screen just for Carrie Tollefson, though she wasn't a notable winner from Roy Griak in her days running for Villanova.
Well, I will say I didn't run here for Villanova, but I did run when I ran for Adidas here in an open race, and I did cross the tape first. So there you go.
Look at some of the others. New Zealander Kim Smith, who went on to a pretty good career as a road racer. Amy Hastings, Stephanie Rothstein, who we all know is Steph Bruce now. Had to give a shout-out to UCSB and Betsy Sena. Again, this is a place, Carrie Tollefson, where, you come here, it's early in the season, but to put a Roy Griak win on your resume for a lot of these women, was the start of a long and successful career.
I mean, look at Betsy Sena is getting ready to run the New York City Marathon. She's got the second fastest time. No, it's the fastest time of the year by an American over the marathon distance. Just missed the Olympic team in the marathon, but what superstars did we get to see there?
So we'll look at some of the winners from the past, but we're about to see a winner emerge from one of these teams, also trying to help her team take a team title here at Roy Griak. As we look at this group of teams, Carrie, a few that are, notables that we're going to be talking about, like a Utah Valley, who, are trying to get themselves in a position to make the bid for that national championship appearance. Colorado State receiving votes this week in the Division I poll. And you got schools, including the host squad from Minnesota, looking to make a statement here early on.
Yeah, for sure Minnesota wants to come here and, show what they've got. Aaron Reedy is ready to lead that charge, and there's always an interchangeable squad there at Minnesota. Colorado State is excited to be here, top returner from last year. Wyoming and Utah Valley just had a race last week where they went 1 and 2. So, having that little rivalry between them can, maybe mix some things up here at Griak.
And Ben, how important are these early season races just for kind of overall team confidence? I mean, you're trying to gel as a team. You now step onto a course where, it's not top to bottom the strongest cross-country meet you'll face all year, but you're wanting to pull momentum out of a race like this, aren't you?
Yeah, definitely. You want momentum, and you want the opportunity to work together as a team. I think this race with the field that's assembled today is a great opportunity for those 4th, 5th guys to really step up and say, like, hey, we're here. We've done the training all summer. Let's make something happen as a team.
And Carrie, one of those situations where, a lot of these schools bringing a lot larger contingent of runners than just the 5 that will cross the line and score. And there's, oftentimes that, walk on or younger athlete that, took it upon themselves to get really well prepared for their first major collegiate season and can make an individual statement here on the road to maybe some bigger opportunities later on in the year.
Oh, I love those stories of the athletes that maybe don't have all the attention on them, but they're just silently, getting it done, putting the work in, and, are just hoping to maybe crack that top 7 of their team for the later stages of the meet or the year. And then they might just surprise some people and have the best season of their life. I mean, you can't count out runners, whether they're scholarship athletes or not. These athletes are driven and focused and hungry, and sometimes when you have the chance to prove someone wrong, you have a bigger fire than anybody.
Some of the final stride outs for these athletes. You can already see, contingents of, 9, 10 runners strong here, Ben. What is the dynamic in that situation where your roster is obviously more than 5 deep, and how does the sort of maybe the wrong word, but the kind of the politics, but also wanting to be, part of a team and be supportive, even if you're the 5th guy and you're trying to be supportive of the 6th guy who's not going to be factoring into a race like this.
Yeah, I those athletes all get the opportunity, right? But then you look back a little bit further down the list and you have the athletes that are looking to make that travel squad, right? And maybe they get that opportunity today because a coach sits out their top 2 guys or top 2 women, and they get to come here and they get to prove like, hey, I belong on this spot. The one thing we kind of have to factor in is who ended their track career or track seasons early and who had those late track seasons where maybe they didn't start running until August. Maybe they took some of those summer months off, they came back, and they're still getting into it, and maybe some of those athletes have been training all summer. So I think there's a little bit of a dynamic of that right now.
Well, and what's become crazy, too, and we've talked about this on several broadcasts, Carrie, is that, before these men and women were collegiate athletes, they were high school athletes, and the sophistication and the extended seasons that the high schoolers are now involved in, it's you're struck also by how many of these younger collegiate athletes are ready for college, so much more so maybe than a generation or 2 before, because they've been kind of in that routine. But there is also the factor of potential burnout too, that you've been going so hard as an athlete for so long that once you get to college and you're making that life transition as well, that it has taken a toll.
Well, and this is what matters right here. Who gets to toe the line, right? We don't want to be sitting watching. We want to be towing the line. And so making sure you're rested and recovered, that's almost, I think, one of the most important things as an athlete is rest and recovery, whether it's in your weekly plan, your monthly plan, yearly, whatever it is. And a disciplined athlete will make sure they have ebbs and flows in training and racing. So you're right. The longer these seasons go for all of these athletes, the more important that recovery is. So getting to the line, make sure you do that, athletes, because just being a workhorse in practice doesn't get it done.
Ohio University, the last box there on the Gator sweep from the first to the last box as these women get set. Large contingents of Division I athletes here. Despite all the chaos that's occurred in collegiate athletics over the course of the last couple of years, cross country alive and well and vibrant. We'll see that even unfold at the Division II and Division III level here coming up shortly as we get our starter out onto the course, and let's listen in. And the racing underway here at the University of Minnesota, the 38th annual Roy Griak Invitational, as the Division I women start their gold race. It's 6 kilometers to be covered here as they get themselves down what is normally the driving range here at this golf course and is now going to drive them into the race course here as we get an early surge already out of the gate here as the racing unfolds.
This is actually one of my favorite parts of cross country, having that wide start line and having to almost go all out for 200-300 meters to find your position. And then you can now start to figure out where you are and where your team is and all of that. But I love that. And also when you have to do that bottleneck, like get in there as fast as you can and then get going.
We go through the teams here one by one. Also see their bib numbers as well, but different race complexity already here. I believe this is Caila Odekirk, the senior from Wyoming, that has pushed the pace here in the early going. Now you would think, Ben, after either their coaches or themselves as athletes watching that first race, much slower than a course record kind of race, conditions being what there are, you assume that they're taking some key lessons from what they saw in that men's race and trying to tell these women what to expect here?
Yeah, 6K is a little different, though. It's a little bit shorter. You don't have to navigate those same hills you do on the men's side. I love this big, bold move by Wyoming. Why not? Change it up, shake it up, and see what happens.
Simhauser coming off a win carry right at Wyoming's invite, and so carrying some confidence into this this first big stage race away from home.
Yeah, I mean, she opened up her season with her fastest 5K, and you know, times in cross country we sort of throw out the door, but I think that when you know that you've never run a 5K as fast as you have on that day, it does give you some confidence. And now things, maybe they're starting to pack up a little bit here. That adrenaline rush in the first K is sort of calming down a little bit, but so nice always to have your teammate right there with you, like in practice, like in other races. It just is a calming effect, but also that confidence really starts to grow when you have your sister or your brother right there with you.
And in this case, Abigail Whitman, senior from Wyoming, up and alongside Simhauser. So those two stride for stride here in the early going and have broken up a nice distance between them and the rest of the field. Again, we'll have in progress results for you after the first mile and then the 3K, and then with just about 1,000 meters to go, we'll get them through the 5K, and that will update those graphics with not only the individual standings at that point, but real-time updating of the team scores as well. Well, Carrie, we mentioned it in that first race. With 10 races on this course today, there was no way we were going to have 10 races go out the same way. And now in the second race, we have a vastly different race planned for these two Wyoming athletes than what we saw from the men's race, where they stayed pretty much in contact with each other through the first 3K of the race.
Well, what I found interesting is, yes, this is a totally different race. The two Wyoming gals are out in front pushing and already has some distance, but Coach Dahlberg said that they are going to be here running on tired legs. He's been pushing them. They've been definitely training hard. So, you know, it might be the strategy just to get out there and grind the whole way because you're tired already, and just to see. But I think these were the two ladies that we thought that would be up there. Last year, Wyoming finished ninth. Whitman, who now is just off the shoulder there, Simhauser, excuse me. We knew that she knows the course. She knows how to run well here, and she wants to come back and I'm sure get that team in a little bit of a higher position than they were last year.
And Ben, when you're facing that reality of coming into a race on tired legs, knowing that this is part of a larger plan, but it's still race day, you still want to be competitive, how did you deal with that reality?
Sometimes it was nice. It was a little bit of consistent feeling. Sometimes when you go through that taper season or that taper, especially early days in cross country or track where, hey, I'm going to rest up a little bit, you don't feel right. You've been on tired legs for a couple months now, and it's nice to have that same consistent feeling of, I kind of know how I'll respond on tired legs. I kind of know how my body operates when I'm a little, maybe not 100%.
You saw the clock as the two women ran by it. That was the mile mark for Abigail Whitman and Caila Simhauser of Wyoming. They are the two leaders. And a pair of Colorado State alone there in isolation in third place, about 8 seconds back of the leaders, but she's also got a couple of seconds between her and the chase pack that includes North Dakota State's Reagan Basler, Quinn McConnell of Colorado State, Ari Trimble of Utah Valley, Oakley Olson of Utah Valley, and Anna Martin of Utah Valley. So no surprise, Carrie, as we look at those updated real-time standings through the first mile, that Utah Valley with a strong contingent in the top 10 leading this one early on.
Yeah, kind of an exciting season for Utah Valley, bringing in a transfer from Boise State. That's Oakley Olson. She's looked good this year, but for them to have this new, another star on their team is really exciting. So you can see that they've been really working hard, and that pack that they have, super tight here in the early stages.
Did you see the athletic course tracker as they work their way onto the edges of this golf course and past the 2-kilometer mark? And you mentioned it, Ben. This is not only 2 kilometers shorter than the men's distance, but just there's not as much time for these athletes that are behind the leaders. And, despite the fact that Wyoming is 1 and 2, it's, again, keeping an eye on 3, 4, and 5. Their third runner at 1 mile, 13th place. Right behind her, 14th place, was their fourth runner, and then back to 26. But Utah Valley, the spread, 6th place to 12th place between their first and fifth runner, and that's the difference right now, as they have the advantage of 13 points.
And 6K also favors mid-distance runners. Somebody who can run a really good mile oftentimes comes to 6K and says, hey, I can navigate 6K. If you're a good 5K runner, unlike track where 10K is a really big step up, I always notice that big difference going from, conference where it was 8K to the additional 2K. That's a long, long way. But 6K is a pretty manageable distance.
There's always that
races,
controversy, right? Like, should the women run further like the men? And I'm with you, Ben. Like, I am a 1,500 meter 5K gal. I could run 10K. I did race 10K on the roads, but I love the 6K distance. So I'm for it. I like the melting pot of the middle distance runners and the distance runners being able to come together.
I totally agree. I do think, I don't know. Maybe it should be both. 10K, make it fair, make it fun, or make it 6K. I think if men race 6K, it would be a totally different race.
Yeah, that's the thing. I'm not saying I don't want equality, but why not have the men then come down to 6K? Like, the debate is always, why don't the women run 10K? Well, why don't the men run 6K? That's always the fun debate, right?
Though I'm out of it, I couldn't agree more.
Thank you.
Well, solving the sports problems here live on Runnerspace and Big Ten Plus. We're proud to be partnering with the Big Ten Conference this year to bring you more action from cross country, and look forward to our coverage next week from Wisconsin for Nuttycombe. That'll be a week from today. Kara Goucher will be joining me for the call of that, and that course setting up for the staging of some bigger events to follow. Kara, you'll be out there in November for the NCAAs. We'll also have coverage of the pre-nationals that'll happen a little bit later on in October. So a lot of action coming out of the great state of Wisconsin this year.
Yeah,
about
and great state of
halfway through
Minnesota
this.
without your co-commentators. You're going to get a lot of Minnesota accents on these broadcasts.
So over halfway home of this, almost halfway home of this 6K. In fact, we'll come up on the 3K, so exactly halfway when we'll have the splits for the leaders here. And just noting here, Ben and Carrie, that lead by Wyoming is beginning to dissipate quickly.
Sometimes the body and mind plays tricks on you. You get out fast and you think, yeah, this is a good rhythm for right now. And you almost goad yourself into saying, like, well, I'm out here now, I might as well stay here. And we're going to be halfway through, and now a little bit of doubt kind of creeps into your mind, and somebody might start coming up on your shoulder, and you think, this is a long way to home.
And can we remind you that coach said that Wyoming, they were running on tired legs. So when you get out hard, you don't quite feel that fatigue that early. Now they're starting to feel that fatigue, and he really said he wanted to see if they could power through tired legs. This is where we're going to have to see if the mind can overtake the body now.
Well, how about the home team? Minnesota has moved up one spot in the overall team standings here through the halfway mark as they've moved into second, just ahead of Wyoming. And you see the 60 points and how those are allocated. So the spread from 5th to 20th, and just 18 seconds between their first runner to score and their last runner to score. And Utah Valley with 45 points now the leader, and we put them side by side. So 3 in the top 10 for Utah Valley, 2 in the top 10 for Minnesota, but everyone between those two teams, half of the top 20 reflected on the screen there with Utah Valley and Minnesota.
Well, it is so interesting to see Utah Valley, the way that they ran last week. It's just so different than what the numbers are showing right here today. You know, mixing things up a little bit. Caila Odekirk, who is in the lead right now for Utah Valley, was 3rd on the team last year. And that's the kind of team you want in cross country. You want a team that can say, hey, you're going to be, you know, let's see what you can do this week. But next week it might be a totally different athlete leading the charge.
And there you see the top teams in the overall standings and where their 5th place runner is. And how many times have we seen these team scores come down to that 5th and final runner across the line to get them those last points? And so Wyoming has now relinquished the lead. And is this Ali Weimer now who's in the lead, Carrie?
It looks like it, and it's just so fun, regardless of who is in that Gopher jersey. People are fired up on the crowd. You can see that the athletes and the spectators are just getting in her face and getting so excited. There's Hops right there. There's Hopkins right there. Ben, you mentioned it. She's one of, you know, not many female coaches, and she now is one that is coaching both the men and women's program, and she's got such fire. She's so excited all the time for her athletes.
And speaking of legendary coaches like Roy Griak, Sarah Hopkins has spent her entire career at Minnesota. She put in a ton of time, and now both head coach of men and women's program. One of few women who coach both programs.
Knows this course so well. She ran in high school and as a collegiate athlete for the Gophers now, been coaching for many years. And yeah, Ali is looking good though, starting to pull away actually.
Well, a little local knowledge goes a long way for Ali as she traverses the undulations on this golf course that, as Ben mentioned, a fixture of your training program. At Oregon, it was a Pioneer Cemetery. This seems like a nicer run.
Maybe. Pioneer Cemetery is a little bit more friendly. This one can be brutal.
Still a little less than 2K to go as we look at the course tracker once again and show you that she's out on the northernmost section of the course, then coming into some twists and turns here. And the advantage here that comes up at this part of the course is you're going to get a sense of where you are relative to the rest of the field.
Or a sense of how far back you are. This place can really put in doubts, especially as she slowly starts making this lead a little bit bigger. If she doubles back and athletes in second, third place see that big gap, they start thinking maybe it's impossible to catch back up. I think that's what we saw kind of on the men's side.
But look at this strength. I mean, this is what knowing your course is, or having experience on the course. And Ben, I don't know how much you guys came out and actually worked out on this course, but it is so important to know where the hills are. Even the slants, like this slant right here, you can kind of see it. It hurts. So just knowing the ins and outs of what you're getting ready to race on is so important.
Yeah.
There's Sarah Hopkins on the left there. You can see her with that ponytail. You can hear her a mile away, though, I will say. I love it.
Well, there have been only 3 Minnesotans to cross the line first here at Roy Griak. Bethany Hasz was the last to do it in 2018. Still more than a K out on the course here as Ali Weimer's trying to hold on the lead here. She makes that turn. We'll keep an eye out for the chase group, which is now coming into view, but there's still some good distance between her and still part of the course here that's going to challenge even those that have not seen this course before, or in the case of Ali, who have seen it several times. As you can see them going through these little twist and S-curves now that'll carry them into the 5-kilometer mark before they begin to make that sweep and start to turn back towards home for the finish line.
And this is that point of the course where they're kind of, it's like a snake uphill almost, and it's uneven ground. And it is really hard, and it sucks the energy out of you, but you have to just climb here. And once you get through this climb, you know that you can power it home, and that's what they're gonna do. Have this one little downhill, some little bumps, but then that long stretch in, everyone gets fired up and just throws it down there.
So Ben, Ali Weimer comes through at 5K in 17 minutes and 16 seconds. You see that split reflected on her graphic there, and now the difference between her and the rest of the field. Simshauser, who went out to the early lead, now almost 15 seconds behind. And how about Emma Atkinson of Minnesota? She's now in third, so not only are we keeping an eye on a potential victory by a Minnesota woman here in this gold race, but we'll see now as those team scores get added. In the parentheses, the number of runners that have crossed through the 5K, and your first 5 runners will constitute your team score. Utah Valley now with 3 across. They were the leaders at the halfway mark, and now they have all 5 of their runners here, I believe, coming in shortly, and now have populated a total of 56 points. But as we show you that and the spread of 26.7 seconds, Minnesota is now just 2 points behind Utah Valley with less than a K to go.
It's exciting.
Again,
super exciting race.
Everybody counts. Yeah, go ahead, Ben. But everybody counts.
No. Everybody counts.
So Minnesota's 5th runner right now is 24th. Utah Valley's is 16. And as you look at the 5th runners here, you can see now how it goes. And Erin Riddy is the one who's in that spot in the 5th position. And, Kara, we talked about her being a potential factor in the overall individual races. And, the only I guess question now is she's sitting there in 24th, but she's running basically by herself, where Utah Valley has runners 4 and 5 next to each other in 15th and 16th place, respectively.
Well, let's just say that Erin Reedy, we know, is such a phenomenal 1,500-meter runner. She's got the wheels, so that could be a factor here in the final stages, where who has the kick, who can get those points. And, she is one to keep your eye on, because she has that mentality of maybe like just throwing it down here in the final stages. When you're a 1,500-meter runner, stretching it out to 6K, sometimes you want to hold back and use that kick. So she might be that deciding factor.
Minnesota last won the team title in 2021. In fact, they won 2 out of 3 when they won also in 2018. Of course, no Roy Griak held in 2020. And into the closing stretches here, as Ali Weimer and Emma Atkinson come into view here in a strong performance by the home team at Minnesota. Reagan Basler of North Dakota State, but if you were writing a script for the day, it'd be beautiful weather, challenging race course, and the host team would be winning the 38th Roy Griak Invitational on the women's side, and it will be Ali Weimer, the junior from Minnesota, as Minnesota is going to go 1-2 on their home course here, as she looks behind and sees her teammate coming in second, and Emma Atkinson. Here comes Kylie Simshauser, who was the one who really took control of this race early and will hold on and finish third. Reagan Basler there behind her in fourth. And now we're just going to keep an eye on Utah Valley. They'll have their first runner come across the line here with Caila Odekirk shortly, and a Pater wrapping up well. And now beginning to populate those teams' scores. Minnesota 1-2. Can they hold on? They were 2 points behind Utah Valley, as they both have 3 runners across now. And Utah Valley with their 5 across the line, and Minnesota now with their 5th across the line, and unofficially, my 2 commentators from Minnesota basking in the potential official glory of Minnesota winning here on the women's side. Carrie, looks like they may have done it.
I mean, how fun for them. This has been, a couple years in the making, and they've had a different squad of girls come in, and Hopkins is just so excited for them all the time. She wants to get them back to the NCAAs, and this is that step. They want it to come here and just come right around the corner from campus and show that they are ready to go. She wants to get them back to the NCAAs. This is a big confidence boost.
You can just see how brutal this course is, with people walk jogging, collapsing at the finish.
As we watch the rest of the field come across the line, let's check in with Keenan Gray, who's with Ali Weimer, our champion.
We won? Shut up. Shut up.
Calm, cool, and collected.
I love it.
And here with our 4th overall Minnesota winner in this meet history, Ali Weimer, who we just found out right now, also unofficially, Minnesota won the team title the 3rd time in the last 6 meets. Ali, let's not even talk about your individual win. Let's talk about the team title and the importance of this.
Yeah, literally, this means the world. I think going in, it was definitely one of our top goals, like a mountaintop goal almost. And just with the past few years and how they've been going, it's like it's been touch and go for a little bit. So this means like the world to us, and I think this is gonna carry our confidence through the rest of the season. I don't even know, like this is huge.
This is a much improved group from last year. Aaron Wrighty talked about like the growing pains of last year, how everything you guys went through. What does this mean kind of just moving forward with what you guys saw from last year to this year? It's obviously a huge improvement.
I think that lately it's been a while since we've competed. Like Oz, obviously, we kind of got like a little bit of an idea where we were. But I think through this past month, we've really been working hard to build our confidence just in workouts. So like to see it in real life and like become real, I think this is huge, and will carry our confidence throughout the rest of the season.
First Gopher to win this as the individual title since 2018, Bethany Hasz. What does that say, and what does that mean to be a part of that club right there?
Well, Bethany and Megan and that whole generation of Gopher women, they obviously completed and did huge things. So to be a part of that and to kind of be following in their footsteps is a really big deal to me, because they are like people that I look up to every day.
Well, I'm sure our own Carrie Tollefson is thrilled, and Ben Blankenship is thrilled to see that Minnesota was able to get the job done here. Paul, this was absolutely a great day for the Gophers.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was a great day for the Gophers, Keenan. It was kind of fun, actually, waiting for that interview to start, to have her here in real time that they had won the team race. And, you know, Kara, we talked about it. I asked Ben, and you have now a chance to comment on it as well as we watch the last few finishers come across the line. You really can take a lot of momentum out of these early season races.
Oh, for sure. I mean, you just see that they've been working for it, and they know that Roy Griak Invitational is their meet to win. And for them to be able to be back on top, oh man, I mean, you better watch out for the Gophers. I think they're going to have a really good year, and that's so exciting for them.
Yeah, congrats to U of M. I have to say, I'm going to say this, and everybody's going to. It's a little bittersweet sitting here. I competed for the Gophers for a long time, but after they cut the indoor men's team, it was a little disappointing. After we've talked about such great athletes that have come through, and for them to cut the men's program indoors, is a little bittersweet.
Well, congratulations to the University of Minnesota women as they take the victory here in the Roy Griak Invitational, 38th edition, and they add another team title, and they add another individual title, and they do it in style as Ali Weimer and Emma Atkinson go 1 and 2 for the Gophers. They had their third place runner in 11th position. That was Brianne Brewster. And then 14th place was Erin Reedy, who closed in. She was the 5th place runner for the Gophers after 5K. And then Izzy Roemer was the sophomore who got the 5th place points for them, finishing in 19th position. Utah Valley finishes in 2nd. And Wyoming, as we mentioned, running on tired legs, and more tired legs coming across the line here as the final competitors get themselves through this 6K distance. But it was, you know, kind of Wyoming getting out and pushing the pace here early, but the patience shown by the Minnesota athletes here, and again, maybe some local knowledge helped, Ben?
Definitely helped. Ran patient, ran bold, and you know, both U of M athletes came through.
What I really liked about Ali Weimer in that interview, just watching how she raced here and getting done, and then knowing that her sole focus today, it seemed as if, was the team. And, you know, obviously, how cool is it for her to win and to be with the Hasz sisters and to know the names that have come from this program? But I loved seeing that. When you're in cross country, your team becomes your family. And you run for each other, and you run for what's on your chest, not necessarily what's next to what your last name is. And that just really shows the true spirit of this team, but also this sport. And I loved it. It was awesome.
So a couple of good Division I races under our belt, and transition shortly to the Division II, Division III classifications for men and women. The men will race again at 8K, women at 6K, and then this afternoon, as our coverage will continue on runnerspace.com, we'll have the high school races for you, 6 of them in total, including those boys and girls championship races to lead off the schedule. What are your impressions, Carrie, after these first 2 Division I races? They came to run under warm conditions.
Yeah, they came to run, and I think that's the thing. It's warm out there. It's humid. Throw the time off the door and just race. Like, forget about it. I see a lot of these athletes stopping their time at the finish line. They used to tell us not to touch our watch and smile for the camera. So maybe we should do that, you know? Just forget the watch. Just go race. But it's been great so far.
Yeah.
So we have a little bit of a break between the women's Division I gold race and the first of our Division II, Division III races. It'll be the men going out on the course over 8,000 meters. We'll have live coverage of that race coming up right after the break.
Runnerspace